Benjamin, you are one of my oldest photography friends.
At the start, bro.
Yeah, we've known each other for years and years and years, maybe 2016, 17, something like that.
15. Let's just round it off.
It's been quite a long time. And I feel like I know you quite well, but one thing that I don't really know about you is your upbringing.
Yeah.
So I would love to know about, childhood Ben, teenage Ben. And then after that, specifically about the role that creativity may or may not have had in your life.
Deep questions. I haven't even thought about these things, but we can dig into it and see.
Yeah, just tell me, just tell me about your upbringing.
Upbringing, nothing special, I guess. I just moving around schools, and I have one kind of traumatic story, I guess, like that's kind of linked to creativity. Like when I was a kid, maybe I would say 5 or 6, I was drawing. I was just copying a tiger, and I was drawing it, and it was bad, obviously, because I was 5 or 6, right? And my parents were oh, that's good, but maybe art is not for you.
That's harsh.
Yeah, or it was not my first thing, and it's yeah, I do remember that pretty distinctly. But they're it's not gonna make much money. I think you should do something. How do you tell a kid that? But Asian parents, they're trying to make the best decisions for you.
Yeah,
financially.
Yeah, and they're always hard on you.
Yeah, damn, bro. 5 years old. let me chill, bro. But yeah, so from then, I didn't think I would ever end up in a creative role. But here we are.
Did you ever do anything aside from that incident? Did you ever grow up with anything creative in terms of your own passions or pursuits when you were younger, or were you just like me and just play games all day?
Games, pretty much. Through high school, I didn't take any electives. I think I was influenced by my parents, to do the right thing, do economics, do business, and I didn't do much science. But then all the bludgers in high school would go and do art because you just walk around and do nothing all day for that period. Did you take any art classes?
I loved art classes. Art classes for me were the only subject that I was good at. Yeah.
Did you take it as an elective in high school? What?
In high school, I don't know, man.
Painting.
How do electives even work in?
No, no. So you have to pick there's maths and all that shit that's maths and all that stuff that's
you could swear
mandatory. Oh, yeah. Cool. No, bleep me out. But
no, for me, it was the only thing that I looked forward to was art. I hated English. I hated history and science and all the rest of it. The only thing I looked forward to was art.
It's interesting. I didn't do any of those creative kind of things. I did okay in history and stuff, but most of high school was memorization, which is kind of a waste.
Yeah.
But here we are now. I had no idea I would fall into a creative role.
And you didn't have any influences from your parents or that the random uncle that comes over every now and then is brings you paintings or something like that, or shows you something cool.
They're all working class. My parents are first generation in Australia, so they came from Malaysia, and it's a struggle. You just have to, or they just had to work and make ends meet. And I think I'm the first generation to be lucky enough to explore creativity.
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly as all art is a luxury to, by comparison to real hard labor jobs like construction and carpentry and blah blah blah, all the rest of it.
They're doing okay. I think my dad was lucky enough to get into an office job and have that kind of life. He wasn't working hard labor, but then doing creative work pays quite well.
Can do, yes. What kind of jobs led you to the creative career that you have now? So I know that you were previously, was it DHL?
UPS.
UPS.
It's the brown poo uniform.
Yeah.
I've only worked 3 jobs.
That's pretty rare.
Yeah, I've only been to, I can distinctly remember my interviews. One when I was 14 for McDonald's. They just sat me outside. It's hey, can you count? Yeah. Okay, you're going at the front.
Can you count? Lowest barrier to entry ever.
Yeah, I was 14 and 9 months. And then I worked that job for a little while. And then it was like during school holidays or whatever. And when school started, I was like, hey, I don't want to work anymore. Bye. I just left. I didn't know how to quit a job. But then from there, year 12, as soon as I quit, I think it was like the first day off, I went to the cinemas and then got a job at the cinemas. That was during uni. And then I kind of, is that 2 jobs?
That's 2 jobs so far, yes?
Yes, I've only worked 2 jobs actually before this. So
Okay.
I worked there through uni. And then when uni finished, I kind of got stuck there for like a year because it was paying well, it was comfortable. I was kind of lazy. And then they were like, hey, you need more responsibility. And I was like, but we want to promote you. It's like, I'm going to quit.
And you're like, too much, I'm out.
Yeah, I'm not going to, like, my life was not meant to be at a like logistics company.
Yeah.
Even what I studied arts informatics. So arts, I don't know, do Americans have art?
No,
Arts,
would
it's
never
like
quit.
not like creative arts. It's like English and like random subjects that they don't know what to put into things, so they just like humanities. It's, majored in sociology,
Sociology.
and then the informatics part, they've canned my degree after I left because it was like not good. But anyway, so it's arts, informatics. The arts part is like humanities. So I majored in sociology, and then the informatics part was like a bit of introduction into IT.
Okay.
So I think the role for that degree was like you're meant to be the middleman in between like the tech people and the non-tech people, which I think me majoring in sociology and IT, it's like social media.
Okay. So
Somewhat, yeah.
I guess this is a pretty common question that most people would ask, but like, have you found yourself ever using the skills that you spent how many years in uni for? Like 4 or something?
Like I failed quite a bit and then I took a year off. So it was like 5 or 6. My heart was not at uni. So I would like take up as many shifts as I could because I wanted to make money to buy a car. So I failed quite a few subjects, but I think the only thing I learned from uni is that I can do anything because I got like a distinction or high distinction. Like I did really well in some class and I didn't go to any class. So I think you can learn stuff. It taught me that I can learn on my own, which is pretty important.
You learn how to learn.
Yeah.
I mean, that's huge. That's
Self-confidence and you can just make it and figure things out if you wing it.
I think that's such a important lesson to learn because people don't ever. Well, I mean, there are a lot of people who don't specifically come into finding out how they learn for themselves or like the best way that they can learn things. And it's kind of a shame because, you see a lot of people floundering and have issues with confidence and have issues with anxiety and all these kind of things because they don't know for themselves or haven't like sat down for themselves to figure out how they learn.
Yeah. Like I feel like some of those people need direction and that's like the employee mentality. So not everyone's cut out for freelance. You know what I mean? Like
it's hard. But before we get into that, because we definitely want to cover that. I'm super interested in it. How did you get into photography just in general? So like you were UPS and then what was the transition between that and I guess the start of your current career?
When I was at UPS, like the smartphones just came out. And then you're looking for like apps or whatever, and there weren't many apps. All I remember was like paper toss, where you like flick a paper into.
That was a classic.
Yeah,
and you could do the spinny thing and curl the paper.
Well, there's a
into the
fan
ball.
that's like pivoting left, so you have to like flick it in.
Yeah.
That and fishing. That was like the early. And then like an app came out, Instagram.
Yeah.
Which you downloaded because you wanted to use the filters in the app.
Which actually wasn't called Instagram when it first came out, remember?
Instamatic or something?
It wasn't, was it Instamatic or like Hipster?
Hipstamatic or something.
Something like that.
But you would see people have photos with like those old Polaroid kind of filters. It's like, hey, I want that. It's very terrible now. But then
ironically coming back into vogue, like the whole film look thing. But anyway, side note.
Yeah, but then the only way to get it would you have to download the app. And then I didn't realize at the time it was a social thing. So you would post to a feed and like my first photo was like of my feet in the warehouse. Actually. And started posting. You would
Art.
see, but you would see things. I think that was at the start of the internet age, like social media, I guess. But you'd see things from people posting around the world. Like I would see a Tory gate, I'd be like, "Whoa, I've never seen a Tory gate before." And like, I think people are so desensitized to that now. Like, you've seen everything. It's kind of
This is I laugh because this is like boomer talk. This is like really showing our age. This is like the origins.
But is it though? It was only like not that long ago.
Well, I mean, it's like the origins of Instagram, right? It's like, you know, you get people like that have grown up with social media now, and that's pretty much all they've known since high school and all the rest of that. And
It's a bit of a shame. You need the mystery, I think. Well, you'll never get it now. But like an example of this is, I remember we're roughly the same generation, right? Do you remember Matrix 1?
yeah, one of my favorite movies of all time.
But so there was no social media. There was not really internet. I didn't see any commercials for it, not really. And like, there's a big kind of twist in Matrix, right? Like for anyone who hasn't seen it, like
Spoiler.
So
for a 20-year-old movie or however old it is.
watch it if you haven't. But it's it was a great movie. But I went into the cinema not knowing anything about it. Like I hadn't seen a trailer. The only way you could see a trailer was on commercials. So on
TV.
Yeah. So if you're lucky enough to catch like a commercial break with the ad, but I didn't see it. So then I went to see the movie and it was amazing and it blew my mind. And I went into a cinema with no idea what I was going to watch. It's like, I think that's pretty impossible. Like if there was a movie with a huge twist right now in today's age, it would be so hard to kind of hide that.
Yeah, honestly, social media spoils everything, especially when you're like so connected to it every day.
Yeah.
It's like so Steph and I recently got into F1.
Oh no.
And her feed is just like completely littered with like F1 news aggregation and like all these F1 posts and all this kind of stuff. And you know, whenever a race is on and we haven't watched it yet because the times where it was a bit weird for us in Japan.
Yeah.
Where I was like, you know, don't open
forget.
Instagram. Stop.
You forget. And then like you open to check DMs and then when you swipe back, it's like Max Verstappen first. Like,
no.
You try and like not look at it, but
Classic.
I wish there was more kind of mystery, but I think we've passed that stage.
Yeah, I mean, it was nice being able to see the developments. I think that's one of the great gifts of our generation was to be able to see, you know, the things that a lot of people take for granted nowadays, like Facebook and Instagram and the origins of MySpace and all the rest of the kind of the internet era growing up into
pre-generational.
Yeah, it's super interesting, that kind of stuff.
But I wonder where it's going. But
so going back to the first dealings of Instagram, you know, so with that, did you develop a love for photography through posting feet pics in the
so the camera was like not great, and like I was like thinking about quitting UPS, and then I guess like when they tried to promote me, that's when I quit. But before that, like I was doing nothing in the office basically.
Right.
I would bludge quite a bit because the work was too easy. I would finish it really quickly. Then I'd have like, out of an 8-hour shift, I'd probably have like 6 to 7 hours of free time. So I would be out scrolling a lot of Instagram and taking a lot of it in. I wasn't really taking photos at the time, which I think was common. People would just be like loitering around and like they wouldn't call themselves photographers at that stage. And then I quit the job when they tried to promote me. And I was like, I knew I had 3 months before I quit. So I was working like as much as I could. I was doing like 12, 14-hour days, double shifts. And then I had a bit of money saved up. And when I quit, I was like, hey, what do I do now? So then I was like chill because I had savings. And then I saw Leicas and they look amazing. But I definitely couldn't buy one at that stage. Like I'd blow my entire savings, right? So I bought a Fujifilm X Pro 2.
That was the first camera.
Looks kind of close to Leica. And I think I was obsessed with how it looked and felt. But then that kind of forced me into, it didn't force me, but it led me into photography.
Right.
I would say.
In today's world, especially with cameras that we have on our phones that we carry around with us 24/7, everyone takes photos, but that doesn't mean that everyone is a photographer. There is a difference between taking quick snapshots of our lunch and intentionally using photographic techniques to craft an image that can be art. And if you are looking at picking up the art and the craft of photography in the pursuit of mastery as quickly as humanly possible, then you might find this interesting. So I've spent well over 10,000 hours in dozens and dozens of different countries all across the world, all in the pursuit of taking world-class images that stand the test of time. As a Sony digital imaging ambassador, I've condensed down everything that I know, all the techniques, all of the tips, all of the tricks, and structured them into 2 different courses for beginner photographers that, as many of my students have said, have drastically accelerated their learning. For many of them, just after a single month of doing my courses provided them with the confidence and the technical ability to use a camera to intentionally compose their images and to also start creating a visual aesthetic and a style when it comes to editing their photos. So if all of that sounds interesting to you, then check out my 30-day photography fundamentals course and my Lightroom editing masterclass over at patk.com/courses. And to celebrate the launch of this brand new podcast for the month of April in 2024, get 15% off with the code MADE at checkout. That's patk.com/courses with the code MADE at checkout. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Now back to the episode. Before we get into that, if you don't mind me asking, how much savings did you have before you were able to feel comfortable to be like, oh, now I can just kind of do whatever I want?
Well, so before I quit, I was in the office browsing. I had 7 hours a day to do nothing. I was news.com, and I came across an article. It was oh, Mercedes just keeps winning. It's unfair because they were smashing it so badly that it was just boring to watch. And then I was hey, I'm gonna go bet on Lewis Hamilton. So then I think from that itself, I won $15,000.
Sweet.
So that added to the savings.
Yep.
And then I wasn't making that much over there. So I don't know, 30 plus, 30, 40,000 around there.
I mean, that's a substantial amount though. $40,000 is enough for, the most people to have somewhat of a full-time salary, especially if they're kind of frugal and
I was never
that
much into planning.
Right.
I'm not as organized as you, whereas I'm going to pay myself. It was just sitting in the bank. And
but it was enough for you to feel safe.
Yeah. And I was living at home. So it was there was no chance of me not having anywhere to live or starving on the streets or whatever. So that was fine. I think that helped me have some more freedom to do what I wanted. And then it ran out eventually because I think I was kind of bumming around for a year or two at least, buying cameras, and they're expensive. That kind of ate into the budget a little bit. And then, I think that kind of ran down towards the end. And then I started taking photography a bit more serious.
What year was this?
I don't know. It's 2014 to 2016, just before I met you.
Okay.
It started to run low when I met you.
Yep.
But that's when I started to pick up jobs and Instagram started to take off, I think.
Yeah, that's the Instagram era, that kind of timeline.
I was at the start of this thing. So I signed up in 2011, and then I guess I quit my job. I can't remember these dates, but around 2014. And there was no money in Instagram.
Well, influencer marketing as we know it today wasn't even a thing back then.
No, yeah.
The classic, the way people thought about influence was the classic, some celebrity smokes a cigarette on television and you see it through a commercial or whatever. That was celebrity and status in that kind of game was the traditional influencer, the OG influencer, right? But nowadays with social media, you have a following and that gives you influence in some way. But yeah, that was the very start of it.
We were regular people, celebrities were movie stars and stuff. But I think the brands wanted in. they saw that it was kind of getting popular. So the first thing I got sent, it was for free. It was like American Giant. Shout out American Giant. They like made hoodies. I saw it on a tech blog, and the tech blog was like, "This is the best hoodie ever made." It's like it's high quality. But then I followed them on Instagram. This was like early Instagram, and I think I liked a whole bunch of their stuff and spammed them. And I think I had a little bit of following because I was on the suggested user list.
Oh yeah, the suggested
For like a minute.
user list. Yeah, that was classic.
So I guess for people who don't know what that is, at the start of Instagram, when you download the app, it would be like, these are some people you should follow.
Because you have no one on the list at the moment.
They're trying to onboard people, and like, if you sign up to the app and you don't follow anyone, you don't get that experience, I guess. So you need to follow people. So you'd be on that list for 2 weeks, and it would be on like global. So everyone who downloaded that would see your head basically
Pretty much.
2 weeks.
Yep.
And I think they must have split it up to regions, but I probably gained like 20,000. Back in the day, that was a lot.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah, then so I had a little bit of following. So when you spam someone's account, they'll see your name, like American Giant. And then I think they messaged me or I messaged them. I can't remember what happened, in what order, but I was like, hey, yeah, send me some stuff. So they sent me hoodies, and then I got my friends to wear them, and I took photos of them. And
That's where it starts, right?
that would be my first gig.
Yeah.
And I think at that moment, I realized that this could be something, like this could be a career.
What was your next product, or like in quote unquote influencer gig that you had to do via Instagram?
People won't, I think the young people won't even, would they know this brand? It was a watch brand. I'll give you hints.
Yeah. What was it? Daniel Wellington. Yeah.
So I reckon
Classic.
the new generation won't, will they? It's
Will
in
they?
David Jones and stuff.
Yeah, they're pretty commercial
But
now. Yeah.
they're like,
I'm not sure.
They've fallen off pretty hard. I don't even know if they're stocked anymore. But
Okay.
they were the start of that whole, I think they pioneered it. I would say they.
Especially in Australia, I think they caught on pretty quickly. They were ahead of the curve.
Yeah, they figured they could get $5, they're not even five, like maybe 50-cent watches from China, and
Yeah.
then send it out and spend heaps of money on marketing to photographers and I guess just influencers back in the day. And then the marketing push was strong, and they ended up making it into like department stores and stuff.
Yeah.
Just kind of crazy. But they sent me a watch, and they didn't even pay me, and they wanted 2 posts. So then I did a whole flat lay thing, and yeah, just posted it, and I had a watch for a while. I gave it to my brother. I didn't even wear it, but
How much did you negotiate with them?
I didn't.
At the time, or like
I was like, yeah, 2 posts, I'll do it. Yeah. At the start, I wasn't a photographer. I had never gotten paid for it, so I think like it gave me something to do.
Right.
So
Did you identify as a photographer at that point in time, or were you just like, oh, I'm just some guy who uses
I'm
Instagram,
an Instagrammer at that time.
Instagrammer?
Because I hadn't been paid by any jobs, and like I was still technically bumming around. So like no paid work, and I was just like running around doing whatever.
Yep.
But I think that was pretty good. Like people talk about not taking free work, but sometimes it gives you like, in my head, I was like, oh, I need to like deal with this client and do a good job, and nothing came from it because they were like spamming these watches out to so many people.
Yeah, you're one of many in that scenario,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, but I am such an evangelist for doing free work at the beginning.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you get so much experience
Yeah.
throughout the entire workflow. You know how to talk to clients, you know how to negotiate things, you know the process of like going through and displaying the best parts of a product and trying to illuminate them in the best possible light and posting them and all the rest of that.
You have to help them reach their goals, which I think a lot of young photographers, like they just want to make a reel that pops off on their feed. It's like, but the goal of the company is to sell watches.
Yeah, and the purpose of them coming to you in the first place was so that they can make more money off the thing that you're about to do.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they wouldn't mind a cool post or whatever, but like their end goal is to sell watches. But I put it in quite a lot of effort. So our friend Chino, he was the hand model. I printed out all these maps, and then I put flat lays take a lot of work. and product photos like take more work than you think. But
Yeah, I think I was it the so you had a podcast ages ago.
yeah.
And I think it was the banner image that you had on the
Yeah.
podcast was like, was it Chino's hand with the watch and
His
then
hand's
like
much tanner than mine. Right?
yeah, and then like the map and then the 510. I still remember it like very pretty well.
Yeah, that I think so. I used that image later on, and I entered a competition. It was Visit Japan, so Japan Tourism. Yeah, Japan Tourism, and they had a competition like win a trip for two to Japan, and they ended up giving me $7,500 Australian dollars to do whatever I want in Japan. So I think that point really shifted my career and boosted it forward because everyone loves Japan.
Absolutely. Definitely want to talk about Japan and all that kind of stuff. But coming back to your earlier origins, what was the first like real big paid gig that you had on Instagram where you were like, okay, I'm kind of like you're at the end of your bumming around kind of stage and moving into getting more gigs and stuff like that? Like what was the first big kind of client, big payday, that kind of vibe?
I don't think it was that big of a payday because like it was an agency and I guess they took a chance on us and they were like, oh, like we'll give you, it was a shoe company, Adidas.
I mean,
yeah,
one of the biggest shoe companies in the world.
That's kind of crazy, right? So like it was through an agency and they were like, hey, we'll give you shoes to shoot. And they also got me to shoot 3, I guess, local celebrities. Dan Hong, he's a restaurateur. Miss G's in the city. In Sydney?
Yes, the burger brand. Was it a burger brand?
no.
Or maybe that was Mr. G.
I'm so bad.
I can't remember.
It's I
Sorry,
know where
guys.
it is. Yeah. Mr. Wong's.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like he's quite big, and I wasn't into food then, and I had to shoot him, a musician, and also another chef, and I'd never. Back then, I was new to photography, and you're still figuring out like what you like to shoot. And then shooting like a celebrity is
It's a lot of pressure.
yeah, they're like, hey, you need to be here at this time. It's like, oh shit. And then I had a Canon 6D, which was like terrible. It only had one autofocus point that worked in the middle. And so you'd have to like press pre-focus and then shoot. Or if you'd have to point the middle of the camera at something, whatever you want to focus on, and then shoot. So it's terrible. But I went and spent that money straight on, like before I even got paid, to buy a 35mm Sigma lens. And I used that on the shoot. Turned out pretty good.
Wow. Reinvesting back in the business.
Before I even like got the money.
Yeah.
I spent it all. But yeah, I think like a lot of the early jobs was just to fund gear.
How much did you make off that particular campaign, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, it's like we got shoes, which is cool. NMDs. They were like
The hype shoe back then.
I was more excited
yeah.
about that, I think, because like, yeah, that whole period, I don't think I bought any shoes for like 2-3 years because you'd get them for free, but they've kind of stopped. I'll buy my own shoes now. But that one was like $1,000, and I spent it all on, I think the lens is about 1,900 something. Yeah.
Wow. So I mean, that's a big enough amount to be like, oh, if I get like 3 of these in the next couple of months, like that's enough.
It wasn't the dollar figure. It was like I worked with Adidas.
Oh, that too. I mean,
Yeah.
People definitely underestimate the power of like such a strong brand.
Yeah,
like that.
There's definitely a future. They took a chance on me. So it was And People, the nice guys.
The agency, yeah.
Yeah.
I find it so interesting because back then, the only way you could really get this kind of commercial style gig, because this essentially is what it is, right? It is a commercial gig, which typically you would have, historically would have hired your internal people, your internal photographers to go and do and run a marketing campaign around that. Like maybe, someone from the marketing team would have had a camera and then like they were a hobbyist photographer or something like that internally. And then that's how they got the campaign done. Or if they were a bigger place and actually had a dedicated photographer, but like,
they might fly in someone from overseas, but like a photographer.
Exactly, yeah. But then in this kind of era, it's like, okay, people, everyone.
Yeah,
you just start reaching out to people on Instagram, and suddenly you have a commercial campaign on your hands.
I don't know about that. Like, a big level campaign, like a high level campaign, I don't know if it would be wise for a agency to just pick a random like influencer who just picked up a camera,
Of course.
because you don't know how professional they are. You don't know, like, they might show up late to a shoot. They might like not deliver the photos. They might like,
But as a start, you know, they and people.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember this agency as well. It was this agency that just took the chance on you. And after that, you know, yourself, myself, and a couple of others around Sydney and stuff like that. You know, we were all given chances with brands and clients that would have taken people so long to network with and so long to communicate and build the relationship with. So I think
traditional photographers hated us because of that. That's like, they've been working for years, they've made contacts, and this idiot with the Instagram accounts come around and snipe the job. And like, we definitely got paid a lot less than what they would have gotten paid. I think like, and people, they wanted Instagram like reach. So the part of the deal was that I take photos of the shoes as well and then post it as well. But then at the same time, they would get me to shoot the celebrities or whatever. And for $1,000, that's really cheap. I think I did a good job, but yeah, like, so I guess it was win-win for them. And the celebs got free shoes out of it. I think they were like, all they had to do was show up for like 20 minutes and then
have someone shoot them and they get a free pair of shoes.
I shot Dan Hong in the back of the Apple store. You know,
the stairs. Yeah.
It's like all nice and silver. And it's like, in my head, I was the new photographer. I wanted like symmetry, and like I'd shot there before, like Instagram photos with a phone. So I went back there, and I didn't know who he was. When we walked into the store, all the Apple employees were like, hey, like, you know,
what are you doing?
Like, they recognized him immediately. It was like, I think it helped that I didn't know who he was, because I wasn't that intimidated.
Oh, okay.
He was just there for free shoes, and I was like, yeah, he was chill.
What are some of the other, from there, you know, what are some of the other brands that you worked with before starting to work with, you know, the brands that you work with today?
Well, so I said I shot with a 6D. So slightly before that, I was posting photos of just like using a Canon camera. I had my dad's like old 80D or whatever. I was posting photos on Canon's website at the time, and then they reached out to me and they were like, hey, can we use this photo for the campaign for the 80D? And it was Chino standing at Bombo Rock Quarry.
Yeah.
And then I gave it to them, and they gave me a voucher, and that's how I bought the 60. But there was little instances of that, like those kind of things that would get me to build up gear. Gear's expensive, especially when you don't have a job at the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like lenses, and I think that helped, like having that limitation of like, you have to use what you got.
Being really selective about the purchases that you have to make. And
yeah, it's like you have to mull over a lens. Right now, like we're fortunate enough to like, I want this, and you just get it.
Yeah.
But I think I'm personally trying to narrow down my gear at this stage of my career, because my back hurts. It's like, I don't want to bring everything out, and it's tough. But like then I was trying to, who hit me up after that? I think it was Lumix. That was my first gig. So they were meant to send me to Bangkok with a whole bunch of other influencers.
travel gig, you mean?
Well, they were
like
meant, yeah, exactly, sort of. That was like, first kind of camera and travel gig. So we meant to go to Bangkok, but then there was trouble in Bangkok. Someone lobbed a grenade into a crowd.
What?
So they canceled the trip like a few days before, and they're like, "Hey, we're not going to Bangkok anymore." I was like, "What?"
Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, like, in hindsight, sure, but they took us to Glenworth Valley, which is like countryside New South Wales, kind of different to Bangkok.
Known for wine, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, like, it was pretty good. We shot horses. Like, they had a contact who ran a ranch, and they got a whole bunch of horses to run through this foggy field, which is pretty good. I think that was like one of my better photos.
One of the most iconic photos from you that I remember is from that shoot with the 3 horses in the middle, and there's all this like lovely dust and super atmospheric and very mysterious.
Yeah, it was crazy. So that kind of worked out. We were chasing fog a lot back then. And like, you get horses, and cowboys, I guess, like running through the fog. It's kind of cool. But they set that up, and then they hooked me up with a camera after, and I was using Lumix for a little while. And yeah, then jobs and gigs started rolling in from there, and I think those gigs lead to good images, because like that would be very hard to. I don't think I could replicate an image like that, right?
Well, and it's also like you. I mean, I'm sure you could organize it if you had the idea, but it's kind of like these jobs are the catalyst for you to get out there and do those things. Because otherwise, you know, you wouldn't firstly spend the budget to do it, and then secondly, like force yourself to think about, oh, what's an interesting thing to shoot, right?
Yeah.
It's like
at the time, I was still figuring out like what I like to shoot, and I was leaning towards nature, because I guess in Sydney you're kind of limited to nature, because
clips and stuff, you know.
Oh, like I reckon nature is more like the strong suit of Australia and Sydney. Yeah. So then
definitely
trying to figure it out, and I guess like it helps when they put it in front of your face. But we were never like planning that heavy. Back then we were just like running around doing. Let's go to this spot. Let's go to like explore this mountain, and
just discovering all the places that Sydney had to offer.
Yeah,
like every single nook and cranny. I remember like even before I left, I look at so I live in Japan now. Before I left Sydney, you know, I remember looking at the map and being like, I know every single nook and cranny of the entire eastern coastline.
Yeah.
Because I've like explored every single little thing, and it just absolutely just milked Sydney for what it's worth.
This is the fence hole that a train comes past. You do long exposures. It's like what?
Or like that Raiders place with the staircase built into the side of the rock, side of the rock. It's like, you know, all these like memorable the rock pools and that kind of drone era, and all these other really classic Sydney.
I would say we were the first of the Instagram generation to do everything.
Yeah. Well, it's also like the technology kind of, we followed the technology along with it, right? So like with the advent of, you know, the real wave of social media, and then all of the gear that corresponded with that. So stuff like drones, you know, Chino again, being like one of the first in your kind of scenario where drones were not even a commercial thing.
Yeah.
The first Phantoms, the first Mavics.
The first Phantoms, you had to solder on a action cam to the flying thing. So they had no camera, I think. So
yeah, you had to put on your own GoPro.
Yeah.
And then yeet it into the air, and that was the thing.
Now it's like, it's idiot proof. It's like anyone can just like launch it.
Yeah. But I remember, you know, we smashed the whole drone thing so much when it first came out, because no one had seen the world from the sky.
Yeah.
It was such a
essentially
new thing.
like if you play games, it's like God mode. You can like just place the camera anywhere you want. It's like not so. How do you feel about drones now?
I mean, now for me, it feels kind of not overdone, but I can. It's such an integral part of a photographer's toolkit. I feel now that it doesn't have anything super special. It's just another tool being like, okay, I need to get a high shot of this. I'm going to use a drone.
Do you always carry, like, obviously you have to think about the location you're traveling to, but generally I'll always have it in my bag.
Yeah. Do you travel with it every single time you fly to a new country, or?
Well, this trip, we're in Japan. So this trip, I'm in Tokyo for 2 weeks. So nah.
No. Yeah. You can't fly drones here in Tokyo.
Yeah.
And that's for me. Like I haven't flown a drone in
but then
ages.
Like we were thinking about going to Hiroshima, and like maybe you could fly it out there.
Yeah. Yeah, you can fly up in Fuji and all that kind of stuff, but
it's not worth the extra weight.
It's a lot of like consideration you have to make each time, right?
Yeah. I've gotten into FPVs, and they're way more fun to fly. Like flying a regular, you've flown before.
Yep.
A regular drone feels like work. It's just like you move it here, you move it there, it's slow, and it's like kind of boring. But I think we're lucky to have all this access to gear.
Yeah, absolutely. So coming back to, you know, the transition period of you getting into your current career, how many clients did it take for you to finally feel like, oh, this gig is the one that's going to set me up for the rest of I guess the rest of your career? Like how you mentioned the Japan gig. and getting paid to go to Japan, essentially, or like
They- so-
having a budget for Japan.
Yeah, it was like they didn't pay me. I had $7,500, which I split because I used it to pay for mine and Chino's trip. Covered it like a lot.
And was it at that point you were like, okay, like I can really make a career out of this, or
Not yet. I think like that time it helped me produce a lot of content, which helped grow my account. And I think every piece of content that you create will, at that time anyway, would grow your account, and then you would get more jobs. I guess like people would see you more. Your visibility would be a lot higher. And then I think I made a video because I don't know. Instagram right now, people don't realize that there was no video at one stage. It started off as square, one single square
a
photo.
single square photo? Yeah.
Then it went to like stories and then carousels. The time carousels came, I was like, why do I want to post carousels? I'm wasting like 9 photos. I could post individually. But anyway, like they don't realize. Yeah, so I started doing video. That was my first. I'm gonna make a video in Japan, and there was a video I saw. It was called like In Japan or something. It's by Vincent Urban. It's like he had hyperlapses. He even had like an early drones, like he's flying maybe in Tokyo. But it was kind of crazy, and I wanted to make something similar. So I'd watch it every single day before the trip, and I made a video from that trip, and it was good memories for me. I think I watch it back and it's like I still like this video. I posted it, and then I think someone found it, and it's hard to trace where you like clients find you, but from my digging, I would say I feel like they found me through that, and then they hired me for a gig, which I think this was a main like transition in my head anyway. That like I'm finally making okay money. It was a hotel chain that wanted me to make videos for them all over the world, which is kind of cool.
Yes, I remember this
Yeah,
series of gigs. Yeah.
I didn't have to post any of it, so it was more like a commercial gig. So not really, or not at all influencing. But they found me from that Japan video, which one thing leads to another. Like you don't know at the time how important it is, but it's so important to just keep putting out work. Even if there's no clear, like, this is going to get me a job, or I think you need to do it for the passion. But they hired me and they sent me for a few years around the world making documentaries for their HR department for recruitment, which it was cool. It's like, that was a big learning experience, but it was a big chunk of change and like bigger than any previous jobs that I'd done. So
after that, you were like, okay, I'm kind of set for a while, and this is the method to which I will make money for the rest of my career. Jobs will come in, and I'll do them, and then I'll move on from one job to the next. Or what was the thinking behind it?
Like at the time, I was just rolling with the punch. I wasn't even thinking that strategically. But one of the goals of me doing all this was I wanted to travel. At one point, I was like, how do I travel? Like flight attendant. But, yeah, luckily I didn't go down that path. Like I don't think I'd survive with like.
You would have made a great flight attendant.
If I saw one of you,
I'd slap my head off.
Yeah, but lucky I didn't go down that path. So this gig basically kind of ticked that off the list of like, we went to Europe, so London, Venice, Berlin, Mykonos, Texas. We did one in Sydney, which is the least exciting because it's in Circular Quay. So I drove my car down.
Your backyard, man.
Yeah. And then, then Shanghai. Yeah, there was like a bunch of, so we'd fly in, we'd film some of their talent. I also had to like hire a friend to help me for those. So I hired Flo of Two Lands, and then Jonah as well at one stage to do the photography. So yeah, that sent me around the world, and it was a good bit of change.
If you're a photographer visiting Japan, you probably want all of the most visually attractive, stunning spots to go to and photograph. And in Japan, thankfully, there is most certainly no shortage of that. It's why I've been coming back to Japan nonstop since 2016 and eventually decided to move here as well. But as an English speaker not knowing how to speak Japanese, finding all of the good spots, all of the local spots is hard. And doing all of the research for how to get there, in what season, what gear to use, and all of the other nuances and considerations that lead to a great image, it is tiring and time consuming. So I've made it easy for you. My photography guides to Japan and Tokyo are the best selling photography guides on the internet. And I have been doing this for many, many years, so I know a thing or two about it. In them, I show off all of the best spots this country has to offer and how to capture them, saving you time, money, and stress, and simplifying the planning process and enabling you to have a great time here. So if that sounds interesting to you, head on over to patk.com/Japan to check out my photography guides to Japan and Tokyo. And to celebrate the launch of this brand new podcast, for the month of April 2024, get 15% off with the code MADE at checkout. That's patk.com/Japan with the code MADE at checkout. Thank you so much for supporting this channel. Now, back to the episode. Compared to, I think it's pretty fair to say the uncertainty of your earlier years on Instagram, like how does that compare to how you make money today? Like what does that look like as a creator?
I think I've been kind of lucky. Like I don't think I've ever pitched a job. Like I haven't this is what I want to do. Yeah, everything's just kind of come into my inbox, thankfully.
Inbound only.
Yeah.
And honestly, my experience has been largely the same as well. But I know for us, we are actually quite fortunate in that respect.
There's lots of people coming up who have huge accounts too. So I don't know if it's to do with your following anymore. Like I think we were doing enough gigs that we're on a lot of the agency lists. So you have to keep. I reckon if I stopped posting, eventually it'll just fizzle out. Like they'll forget who I am, and I won't get any more emails. But generally, in Sydney, I think we're pretty established. We get hired for stuff that's not social that we don't have to post, and I have clients that are recurring. So I do a lot of work with Adobe, and I have done for quite a few years. But jobs just come in. You try to have them pay a good amount, and that means you don't have to go and hunt for jobs, and you can say no to jobs, which
very important.
Yeah, because for mental health, I guess.
Yeah, for many, many reasons.
Yeah, I think if you kept doing jobs that you didn't like, it would eventually wear you down.
Yeah.
And so now I only try to do jobs that
that you enjoy and align with whatever you're trying to do at the time. Like
if it's a social gig, I want it to have stuff that I can post and stuff that I like. So I worked with Fujifilm most recently with their X106 camera. I was trying to buy one anyway. I was on a waiting list. It's super popular for those who don't know, but it was on a waiting list for 10 months. And then they were like, hey, your camera's here.
This is for the 5, right?
Yeah, for the 5. Because it was sold out for so long. And then 2 or 3 days before, they said, your camera's here, Fujifilm had reached out and said, hey, do you want to work on this a new campaign for this new camera? It's
you knew it was the 6 and you're like, oh yeah.
So I don't need to buy one anymore, and I get the new one. So I had to go and cancel my order for the first one. And that content, it aligns with what I would normally do. It helped me. I ran around Sydney and Melbourne creating the content, and it would be something I would post anyway.
For sure. On that subject, what do you feel about, or how do you feel about brand loyalty? Especially, this is a huge one we talk about a lot, but I would like to know, because everyone has a different approach to this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And some people might be super loyal, build up relationships over a long period of time. And then some people might be, everyone, everywhere, all at once, all the things. Some people might be a little bit more deliberate, and different people have different reasons, right? And I think for us, we have different scenarios where we have to approach it a little bit differently from one another.
But will this decision affect my my future?
So tell me about your experience with brand loyalty and jobs and that kind of thing.
Well, firstly, you think about fashion influencers, right? If Adidas approaches them, they're like, here's some shoes, we'll pay you to post about it. they don't just wear Adidas shoes for the rest of their life and only wear Adidas shoes, right? So they will wear, you wear all types of shoes. But for us in the camera industry, they get kind of, I wouldn't say catty, but like there's like us versus them. And it's like you have to pick one and stay with one, I guess. And they get kind of mad if you like switch around. But I don't think that's right, because like I use a whole bunch of brands. I use quite a bit now. And I think, yeah.
What brands do you use, just for transparency? For transparency at the moment, as of this date?
Yeah, so like I mostly Canon. I think when you buy into camera gear, like you buy lenses and you kind of stuck into that.
Lock into a system, really, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, it doesn't make sense to have like a 1635 Canon and a Sony,
which you do.
Oh, yeah, but anyway, so like I use mainly Canon, but then I also picked up a ZVE one, this little tiny Sony one, because I vlog and I travel, and it's so much smaller than anything Canon offers. So much more capable too. But then I only have one lens for that one. Fujifilm X106, waiting for them to send it to me. It's like sold out forever. Even I had to wait. But so I have a little Ricoh pocket camera, shoot with a Samsung. And yeah, I want to be able to use any brand and not be stuck with them. But it is pretty difficult, because sometimes they get you to sign exclusivity contracts. And yeah, like I think you have to kind of factor in, if you're going to make any more money from other brands for that period, how much that's worth to you. Sometimes like you likely not going to get another. Yeah.
It's kind of, it does get a little bit tricky in that respect. I know for me, like I have an exclusivity contract with Sony as a digital imaging ambassador. Yep. I can't use any other camera brands as my main camera brand.
Yep.
Especially for anything where Sony competes and that kind of stuff. So they don't do drones and they don't do like action cameras.
Yep.
So that's kind of like fine to venture around or whatever. But for everything else, like all of these cameras, you can see all this stuff up here. I'm like 100% have to be.
Store.
Yeah, literally like locked into Sony.
Yeah.
I know you have a Samsung ambassadorship at the moment. So what is that like in terms of the conflict you might receive, or even like the considerations you have to make?
Well, no, I use I work with them a lot. So I'm under a like year-long contract, and I have been. This is like the second or third year. It's been pretty good. It's like it's like a regular client that I guess counts as stable income, because as a freelancer, it's like you never know how much money you're gonna make. But this kind of sets me up for the year, and I know this is like going to come in as money, and I create like X amount of pieces for them a year. So I'll travel and carry the phone around and create a whole bunch of content, but it adds a bit of stability, which I've been missing for like a long time.
Right.
Yeah.
So what do you mean by that? Like I know what you mean by that, but for the audience, like how does that experience as a Samsung ambassador, I guess, fit into the whole freelancer thing?
It's regular work. So I think I can make the content for Samsung anywhere in the world, so it doesn't stop me from traveling, which is great. And then it's a set, I guess I know at the start of the year how much money I'm going to make from them, which buys me a lot of freedom and creativity to like go and do other things in the meantime. But
I think that's really important as well. And if you don't mind me asking, like, and you don't have to answer as an absolute number, but what is the kind of figure range that Samsung provides you to give you that level of, mental freedom and actual freedom?
Yeah, like I'm not going to starve like immediately.
Yeah.
It's I would say it's like a large part of my yearly income. The year's we're April now, so I might make a lot more, who knows, right? But it depends how hard I want to work. But I would say like it's an average person's income. Just kind of crazy.
Yeah. Are we talking like, let's say like an average mid-range person in their career, or a senior person in their career?
Mid-range. It's like mid-range. It's almost like a full income.
Yep.
It's a large part of my total income, but not the full amount. I would say maybe, depending on how hard I want to work, like 70%
of the entire pie for the year kind of thing?
Could be less if I work harder. Yeah.
Okay.
Currently, I reckon we're only in April now.
Yeah.
So
Well, on that, historically, what are the distributions of income that you have as a freelancer, and what are their percentages, and where do they come from?
like I want to do more. I guess like digital goods. So like presets. I don't even have presets up at the moment, but you should check Pat's presets. Plug. But yeah, you have that whole model set up. I do sell prints, but I don't push it very often. So I think most of my income is just from freelance gigs, and now this like contract. So yeah, I think they pay enough that I'm not really worried about if I'm going to survive or whatever. So I'm pretty chill. But
Would you say they pay more or less than your, average campaigns you might receive in a year for influencing or
this Samsung contract?
yeah, like the Samsung contract versus all of the other campaigns you might receive in an average year?
Like it would be safe to say at this point, like at least half it would be. So like that's half your income.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That is
I would say.
is massive. That means I could just imagine the financial stability like as a freelancer must be
people who are
nice.
listening who work a 9 to 5 job, they get paid every Friday or like every 2 weeks. Like I haven't had that for the last 10 years, and you don't understand. Like you have to have a good amount of savings to like, if your client like, oh, we forgot to like put your invoice through, and it's like it's gonna take another month. Like if you were broke and you had to wait another month for your income to come in, like that's kind of crazy. But
Yeah, sometimes I don't receive payments from invoices for like 3 months, maybe
Yeah.
6 months, It's
worst
wild.
is I've been is like 6 months. So
Yeah.
it's like, man,
Dude.
you die. Like how do you survive? But I guess the trick is to have high paying jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So then when you do get paid, then it'll last you like quite a while, right? And also to have savings to kind of get you through those periods. So even if they're like, oh, it's going to be a month late, it's like, yeah, whatever. It's fine. It'll come eventually.
What is the lowest amount in terms of savings that you've ever had that's made you feel like, oh shit, I got to go out and make some money?
Oh, it was at the start of my Instagram career. I guess like money was running out. And I was like, oh shit.
Like what are we talking about? We're still talking about running out.
Well, I was living at home, so let's just have that. Like, I would be fine. Like, just eat rice at home.
Cup noodles and
Yeah. So I would say like not enough to go out. Sometimes it's like, but I really, I'm grateful for that experience. So I was never close to like living on the streets, right? But then I think like when I ran out of money, you really find out what you need to survive, like what makes you happy. So I found the bare minimum, and I don't ever want to get there again, obviously. But it's good to know like what you really value. So I just need coffee and somewhere to sleep and food, basically. But you know that figure.
yeah,
Yeah.
the absolute bare essential figure.
Yeah. And like,
And it changes over time, right? Like,
yeah, but you know what you can like give up. Do you know what I mean? It's like, this doesn't mean that much to me.
sure. It's like the inverse of like lifestyle creep.
Yeah. Yeah.
So nowadays, and especially now as you get more and more successful, right, your lifestyle creep does increase. What in today's world is like your minimum kind of amount or lifestyle choices and just general like freedom overall?
I'm living pretty comfortably. I don't think I value money that much, because like I could work 24/7 and make a lot more money, but it's like up until a certain point, I just need to be comfortable. And then I think the thing is I value traveling at a whim. So I worked from like start of this year, like January 1st, all the way to, what is it now? March, non-stop. And I was like kind of dying. And there's like more jobs coming in. It's like, nah, I don't want to do it anymore. I've made enough. I'm just going to go, like, I'm in Japan.
Yeah, on a whim.
Yeah. So it was like, I wanted to finish all that. And our friend TK was coming, and he was like, come, you should come. And you were messaging me.
Yeah, I was
So-
like, are you coming for Sakura? It's like around the corner.
I think it was on Thursday. You were like, hey, you should come. And I went to sleep, and I woke up. I was like, hey, I should go. And then the next day I booked it. And then I think it was like a Thursday or Friday. and I booked a flight for a Monday. So
Yeah, I mean,
that's pretty tight.
man,
It's the tightest I've ever done, I think.
I resonate with that level of freedom,
Yeah.
and that level of financial freedom and financial sanity
Yeah.
so much. So much. That's so important to me.
Yeah, I'm not out here buying Lamborghinis or whatever, but it's like if I want to go to Japan for 2 weeks, and it's pretty expensive now. Like it's right now it's Sakura season, so like all the hotels are booked out besides the upper chains, which are like.
I got to show you some Japan accommodation hacks
Oh yeah.
in terms of like prices and coverage and all that kind of stuff later, a little bit later.
I don't mind. I'm on my own traveling, so I can sleep in a little box as long as it's not on a smoking level. That's like,
No, this is the
so
worst.
disgusting. But yeah, like we're out every day shooting, so it's like it's not a big deal. But traveling, I guess like I don't need any more gear. But right now, like if I wanted to buy something, I'd just go buy it. But I'm trying to slim that down, and as long as my rent's paid, and I can continue traveling and living this lifestyle, I think I'm pretty good.
Yeah, nice. Let's talk about Japan, because Japan is very near and dear to
both of us.
Both of us.
Yeah.
And to honestly, like our entire friend group.
And our audiences.
And our audience. Like Japan in general is just really important to all of our lives. So much so that I decided to move here.
Yeah.
And set everything up here and accelerate that a little bit further. But tell me about Japan, your first love, your first experience, and where you see it playing a part in your life in the future.
So I came here because I won that trip, right? And I spent 30 days. So we traveled from Tokyo all the way down to Hiroshima and then back again, right? I think before that trip, I saw some of you guys come here. I was like, oh my God. I was like dying. I wanted to go, but obviously I had no money to have a full trip. So that really changed it. And then, I don't know, it feels like home every time I come here. Do you know what I mean? Like that's, not that Sydney's not a home, but I just feel comfortable here.
When did it first feel like a home? The literally like the first moment you entered?
No,
or
like you land here, it's like everything's amazing. You're like, oh, look, a train crossing a light. And then like, I guess like you learn to navigate around. And so all those like barriers kind of go away, and like, how to use a Suica card and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know, I think it's like pretty good for like solo traveling. I went to Korea and that was like super difficult.
Yeah.
It was like, I think trying to get like go to a restaurant, they serve so much banchan, so it's like this little side place, and it's like if they see you on your own coming, they're not going to give you 10 plates of like side dishes and like you're alone. So it's like
can't eat it all.
Well, sometimes they like go away, like we don't do so.
Yeah.
But Japan is not like that. Japan, you can just go to conveni, like pick up a snack or whatever. But I don't know if I'd move here.
Fair. That's fair.
Firstly, I don't want to work here because it's like I have all my contacts and like that kind of setup in Australia. And I feel like it'd be difficult.
I will tell you this, and we haven't really talked about this actually. But I'll tell you straight up, the moment I moved to Japan was probably the moment that all of the Australian agencies stopped contacting me.
Do they have it?
Which to me is fine, because I don't make the majority of my income through gigs and campaigns and all those kind of things. So it's fine. Like for my livelihood, I don't really care that much. But I did see like it was night and day.
Yeah.
As soon as they knew that I was out of Australia, gone.
Yeah. So then you have to like restart this whole. I don't want to go back to that level of uncertainty again. That would be kind of annoying. But you, how did they know? Because like.
I don't know. I mean, look, when I say immediately, I'm talking about the course of, it happens in cycles.
Clear.
Yeah, it's very clear, right? Every year you would have certain cycles like, oh, it's February. That means, all of the international people are going to have, all of their marketing budgets coming pretty close, and they're all going to start competing for it now and blah, 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 blah. Or like in Australia, it's like end of financial years, June 30, and so people always come like April, May, and things get really hectic from there. Or like, people are trying to line up campaigns for the end of the year, and then they'll come to you in October or November or whatever, and a lot of that just kind of falls to the wayside. And now I get Japan agency stuff.
Interesting.
I don't get Australian agency stuff,
Yeah.
which is really interesting.
Because like on my feed, I only post. People think I live here as well, so it's like maybe every now and then I should sprinkle in like Sydney.
I mean, I'm sure it'll help with the pickup for sure.
Yeah. Like I'm also like scared of moving here. Like it'll become normal, and then I won't want to shoot anymore. Like I don't shoot in Sydney, and I think that's sort of the same thing.
Yeah, and we were talking about this the other day. Like this happened to me here in Tokyo, in that now I'm here, I have so much time, I can just do whatever and go whenever.
Yeah.
But it also means that you sometimes never go because you have so much time, right? You're here all the time. And for me, in many ways, you know, Tokyo has turned into kind of Sydney, where I don't really shoot that much. Because I just get caught up in the everyday.
You should create challenges for yourself, but 30-day challenge.
And it's amazing when you know my friends like you and TK and others come around, because then you're like, oh, let's go shoot, and I'm like, yes, all right, I have an external motivator to go and explore the city that I live in. So
TK is currently on the clock. Do you know what I mean? Like at the end of you've got 3 days left. He's like, that pressure is kind of strong that you need to go and do stuff like every waking hour.
Yeah.
But I feel like I haven't shot, it's like day 5. So it hasn't been that much, but I haven't shot as much this trip because I was only here like 3 months ago. So yeah, maybe like, I think last trip I shot heaps because I hadn't come for a whole year. So I think having a base in Sydney and going from there, we'll keep things fresh.
I mean, it's amazing for us Australians as well, because it's like 6 months that we can stay here. I mean, 3 months at a time, but like 6 months in a year that we can stay in Japan as a tourist, which is just the longest. Like, you don't really need that much time here anyway. And Japan is terrible in the summer and all the rest of it. So
it's beautiful in the summer. What are you talking about? Nice and sweaty.
Oh, it's so sweaty, man. You walk outside, you feel like you've taken a shower in like 2 seconds. It's the worst.
So the first trip I was here, it was in July. I didn't know I could sweat for my shins. That was kind of crazy. It was wild, man. It was so hot. It's insane. We're from Malaysia. I would say it's hotter than Malaysia.
Absolutely.
Malaysia's on the equator, so it's like hot all year round. But
when it gets hot here, damn, it gets hot here, man. Especially if you live in like Kyoto, because it's in, I always say this every time, but it's in like a valley. It's like an oven, man. Like the air doesn't move, and wow.
Embrace it. I want to, like, you should buy those, like, it's like fans for your jacket. Do you have I want to come here just for that.
So for context, every summer, Japan or Japanese people tend to bring around portable fans all the time. And I have a portable fan, and there are these like vests that you can buy that have the portable fans like built into them, and they just like blow up the vest, and you just have like cool air.
But then you look like
around.
a Michelin man. Yeah. I'm cool with that.
That's great. Have you ever considered, you know, as a travel photographer, the majority of your content is
pressure
from Japan.
From Demis is like, go somewhere else. You always go to Japan. And like at the start, like last trip, I was like, okay. So in the middle, I was like, we had to return a car to Haneda Airport because that's where we rented it in the middle of the trip. I was here for 5 weeks. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to go to Taiwan just to say I went somewhere else. And like, it was fun. It was fine. I got some content out of that. But then I've come to the realization, it's like, I like coming here. I like it here. So why... I'm going to come here. I'm not going to force myself to go to a new location and pretend to like it. So I'll go other places, but like I'll come back here often, and I don't care what people say. The food's good here. Like every time I come here, I'm out every single day. There's like never a day. I think I was here for 5 weeks last time. I was like, oh, like I'll have a free day. I'll go do this by myself. I didn't have any days to myself for like 30-something days because there was always someone's like, hey, let's go out and drink. Let's go out and shoot.
Always something to do here in Japan. That's you know, one of the reasons why I absolutely love it. But on that thought, you know, I mentioned this to you the other day. When you go and travel somewhere, anywhere in the world. For me, I like, oh, yeah, it's sad to say, but
Comparing.
yeah,
No.
it is.
Oh.
Japan is like the yardstick to which I compare all of my travels now. And as a travel photographer, after having, traveled so many different countries all over the
It's
world,
not as good. It's like, oh, mate,
it's like
they're different.
it's a bad habit to get into because you go into a different country with like an expectation of it being like this, and the food being this high, and like the adventure being this high, and all these different things.
You can't go there with that mindset.
Yeah, and it ruins the experience, right?
Well, for me, Korea, like I went to Korea last year or whenever it was. It's like people always compare Japan. They're not the same country.
No, then absolutely not.
But there's always a comparison. I think maybe their cultures, they're not the same, but they're like similar in some ways. But Korea was hard to navigate. They've locked down the whole map system, and you have to use their internal apps to get around. And
yeah, I remember us asking, for you and then me separately, like asking our Korean friends, what is the apps to use? How do we get around? Google Maps sucks. What's going on?
Yeah, I don't know. There's like, need to be open. Need to definitely not arrive there, and Japan's bad.
Yeah, so you could safely. Is it fair to say that Japan for you is going to be a big part of your life for the foreseeable future?
Forever destination.
Forever destination.
I think so. I'll come back here, like chill out. We do still explore a lot of Japan. Like we've done quite a bit. We did.
Yeah, we've done heaps.
All of Hokkaido.
Yeah.
All the way to the top, all the way to the right.
Yeah. The northernmost point of Japan, the easternmost point of Japan. Yeah.
But there's so much more to do, which is kind of crazy. And there's like not only so much more to do, but there's like 4 seasons to 3 minus summer to do it.
Some of you hide.
But, like I thought about this, right? In Sydney, if I had a campaign, like we need like we're launching a new camera. You can't, well, I guess you can, but you can't just jump on a train and then go somewhere. Where would you go?
Yeah, where would the Blue Mountains?
Bankstown.
Bankstown.
Create content there. Do you know what I mean? Like
or,
over here, you can.
Or Seacliff Bridge for the 500th time.
The car companies are basically so sick of that. Yeah, it's like it's not as over here. You can jump on a Shinkansen and go to some really nice place with a temple and create content there. But
nice.
I just take a flight, I guess.
Absolutely. So would you see coming back to business and your career and stuff like that, would you see a lot of the work that you do kind of transitioning into more Japan-based campaign stuff, or would you just still like it to be more Australian-based stuff?
Australian. Like, I mean, Japan, we do get hit up a lot by the tourism agencies to like go explore Japan and that kind of stuff. But I also wonder if my clients are like, this guy's Japan again. They're like, see, like, because I have to say produce content for Samsung, right? I wonder if the client's like, oh, like I've seen Yodobashi again. But it's such a aesthetic place to shoot, and I love it here. So
especially for the content that we kind of produce, right? It's the best place in the world. Biased, of course.
Like I think you produce content for a brand. Like everyone likes Japan too, so it's kind of safe that it would likely perform well, be received well. But I do want to do more like other countries as well, and I guess like seem a bit more international. When you say you're a travel photographer, is it travel photographer or Japan photographer?
I would say I used to be a travel photographer. Now I'm a Japan photographer.
Yeah. I feel like that genre is a bit of a cop out. Like what photos do you take? Like what kind? It's like travel photography. It's like,
I don't know. I like that it's a umbrella for the many things that I am interested in terms of photography. You know, street photography, landscape photography, portrait photography, architecture. Like I like all of it, and I like being able to showcase a country through those avenues, which is why I call myself a travel photographer, because otherwise I'd just be like,
I take photos on vacation.
Or I would lock myself in and be like, I only take photos of landscapes in Japan or something like that, right? But I enjoy the diversity, and that's why I call myself a travel photographer.
That's true. I never thought about like how it's actually a umbrella term for
is an
all the
umbrella
other
term.
subgenres.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's not the same for everyone as well, because, not everyone likes portrait photography.
Yeah.
Not everyone can be bothered to get up at 5 a.m. and go for a sunrise mission
Yeah.
to a landscape or whatever.
It's good that we can do everything. I
Yeah.
think it matters. But
Exactly.
what would you consider yourself? Travel photographer?
Still a travel photographer, and yeah, I mean, YouTuber. I had this conversation with TK on the last episode about labels, and how labels were important, but they could go either way. They can go very positively, or they can go very negatively, depending on how you kind of construct them in your mind. And for me, being called a YouTuber means I have a responsibility to make regular YouTube videos, which is a great thing. And something that I haven't done for the last 3 months, I understand, but I've been snowboarding and other things. And
Have people been like, where's the next video?
honestly, almost every day. But strangely, the collaborations and the sponsorships don't stop.
Yeah.
They just constantly come in.
They're just a machine that needs to keep running. You know what I mean? It's like regardless of whether you're replying the emails or not.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on spending the last 3 months just snowboarding and just
YouTube's hard to keep up with. Like I did okay. I did 13 episodes for my first Japan series, the vlogs, which you're part of.
I remember that. Yeah, that was great.
But that's because there was COVID.
It's okay. You can say it nowadays.
Bleep it out, bro.
It's fine.
You're gonna get downranked. But anyway, like there was 6 months where I didn't leave the house, and that's how I edited those videos.
Yeah.
But now I tried to replicate that a few times, like a few trips, 2 years. But I got out 2 episodes for the last trip, and then I got flooded with like client work, and then everyone's like, "Hey, where's the next?" It's been a year.
So on that though, in the future, how do you solve that? Like, what ideally in the future, what would be your workflow and process around that?
I definitely can't do 13 episodes of like, today we're going to like explore this mountain and do photography. I think I need to condense it, like do one video, but in the entire trip.
Like a super vlog or something.
This is a work in progress. I haven't even done this yet, but I think that's like probably the most sensible way to do it. You tell me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out myself too.
My vlogs take a long time because like I'm not planning the vlog. This is just my day basically. Yeah. And then like you do talking head videos where you could smash it out in one day.
Well, I'm shifting to this podcast. So this is like I film the process so far is like I set up and I film for a couple of hours and then I hand it off to someone else to edit hopefully. And then that's hopefully kind of it. Like I want that kind of low touch, but I was also trying to think about, I live in Japan now and I want to catalog it. And vlogging is just not a thing that goes off on my channel at all. So I want to make like a new one. And then I had all these thoughts about how to make it more approachable for me and less of an overhead in terms of work. Yeah. And
people will be interested, but you have to find that new audience because currently it's like your channel's education.
Yeah, it's education. So switching everyone over is pretty tricky. So, I'm probably just going to make a new channel that is very low touch vlogs, very low, I would say low production quality by my standards, but makes it easy for me to edit and get out quickly just so that I can have it as a memory kind of thing.
Not even quickly, just consistently, I think.
Well, that too, yeah. I would hate to be in the situation, no offense, I would hate to be in the situation where like I've recorded 13 days of something and then now I have like 13 days of vlogs to edit and just be swamped by this gigantic backlog that's so daunting and I would never actually touch.
Yeah, so it's like in the archives.
Yeah.
They're like, no one will ever see it. But
that to me is like, I don't want to get there.
But that's with vlogging though, because like you don't know, I guess the more you do it, like you can narrow it down is the idea. But how do you know what's going to be exciting? You have to film everything at the start.
And then filter it all.
Or in your head, you're like, maybe this will be interesting. I'm going to do it on this. And you have to make that decision ahead of time. But I'm struggling. Like
it's tricky.
Yeah.
Are you going to keep your YouTube channel as a vlog channel, or are you going to try and transfer it to something else, or do something else, or like?
I don't really like because I make sometimes like kind of tutorial videos for say Adobe and stuff. I don't know if I would do that for my own channel. I don't really like teaching, to be honest.
Yeah, and that's been a very interesting thing that I've seen in your career,
Yeah.
which is that you don't do very much educational content, if at all,
I think it like
for your own brand.
yeah,
That is.
for value, it's like people who want to learn. There's always like someone at a starting level, but then I feel like I'm not qualified to teach because I'm still learning. I'm sure I could teach stuff, but it's like I'd rather be creating stuff.
Do you have quote unquote imposter syndrome
No,
around that kind of stuff?
like definitely at the start, but not anymore. Like I think I'm just doing me basically.
I mean, you've done it enough to
Yeah.
like have the confidence.
Like one of the goals for my career is just I want to live my life and be paid for it, which is kind of happening. It sounds like a bit stupid and also, I don't know, like arrogant maybe.
Not at all. I mean, if anything, it's pretty inspiring, right?
Yeah.
I talk a lot about lifestyle design
Mm.
and especially to you guys
Yeah,
and, you know, any other creators that I end up meeting. And, you know, the intentionality behind designing a life that you love
Yeah.
is, I think, a really like noble kind of thing because no one really does it.
We're in that age where it's very, very possible. So it's like people who are working 9 to 5. I can't imagine that lifestyle anymore.
Yeah.
You had a pretty good job.
I had a
until-
fantastic job. You know, I
and you
had
took the leap.
like, you know, very high paying 6-figure job, career that I've been doing for 10 years, you know, so many luxuries and working from home.
do you miss it?
And
So it's like-
absolutely, like so much so that I could go back
Oh.
if I wanted to give up all the freedoms that I have today.
You wouldn't have to think about a lot of things.
Yeah,
Like
it's
a lot of it's taken. You have to work and stuff and think about work, but like a lot of the stresses that we currently face, you wouldn't have to think about.
yeah.
That'd be kind of nice, but I would never be able to go back.
No, neither. Like especially
That's
with
good.
especially with all the freedoms that I have now.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I could go back, but what's the point? You know, especially now for me, I've developed so many freedoms in my life that I treasure so greatly. Like to be able to just take off 3 months and go snowboarding and
Yeah,
not have to report to anybody, not bat an eye about content or how much money I'm making or whatever. That to me is the most valuable thing in terms of my career right now.
it's wild though. People are like either stuck in the machine. I'm not gonna say matrix, but I would encourage people to like now is the best. Like I would say right now is the best time to start.
Right. So on that,
Yeah.
what if a aspiring creative was
Yep.
currently working a full-time corporate job that they hated, hypothetically speaking?
I know there's a lot of it out there. Yeah, they're
Absolutely. There seems to
waiting
be-
for that trigger. Yeah.
Yeah. What are the steps that you would give them as advice to make the transition, to get out of that and do what they love full time?
Well, like I've done this for like since the beginning of social media, I would say, right? We've both been there at the start. I would say historically right now is the best time to take the leap because you can grow an account overnight and that's never happened before. It's kind of crazy. Like it
Yeah.
to get to like 50K took us like 5 years or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think the opportunities are for anyone to just pick it up and to go. But you need to love it. We've seen so many people have like something go viral. And I wouldn't say that's like that it's made their career, but it's definitely a huge like stepping stone for them to kind of get into the industry. And then the weight of like the pressure would just crush them and they would disappear. You wouldn't see them for months. They'd stop posting. Then, yeah, it's kind of sad to see because they're talented, and I wish some of them had like gone through with it. But everyone's on different paths, and you don't know what they're facing and if they truly love it or not. But I think if you truly want to be a creative and you truly love photography, you should just do it because the lifestyle's great. The pay's extremely like it's very, very comfortable to the point that it's like kind of makes you wonder. It's like, am I getting paid this much just to do this? While people have to work months and months and months just to like in a dead end job just to hit that amount. You know what I mean? But it's very lucrative.
How do people get there in a tactical perspective? Like, give me first 5 steps that someone might take in order to live the life that you live?
Buy my course. I don't have a course. I would say like save money. You need a safety barrier. Firstly, because like clients sometimes take months to pay, and like you don't want to put yourself in that position if you don't need to. Save money. Start working on putting out content and creating content. I think you need to be pretty consistent, and that's hard for some people. You need to build a system to create regular content and always kind of be visible online. I say that, and it's like I don't post that often, but when we first started, we were doing like a piece of content every day.
Every day, sometimes twice a day.
Or like that was photos.
For me, yeah,
that was photos. Now it's reels, which video, which takes a bit more work. But generally, you need a schedule to be consistent because like it helps keep you visible with clients, but it also helps you practice. And I think you're only as good as like the last piece of content that you made.
Sure.
And content lasts like 24, 48 hours and like it's gone.
It's gone.
So
especially in the minds of people.
Yeah, like if you're just starting as well, like say you're thinking about quitting your office job or whatever, you need as much practice as you can get to experiment, to find out what you like doing. You need to find out what you don't like doing. That's super important too. And then, so learn new skills.
Saving, consistency, and experience,
like
I would
start
say.
now and try to put out content as often as you can and keep it like a routine pretty much.
And then?
Then I guess you'd have to think about like, I didn't really think about money at the start of my career. So it's like, I can't tell you to do that. Basically, I didn't do it. But
I mean, you can give people advice. Like if you were to have done it a different way, knowing what you know now, there's bound to be like a more efficient way that you could have done what you have done now that you've done it.
One thing that did help me quite a bit is to find creatives to, I guess, like new friends. That it helps a lot. That like when we found each other, like that helped keep consistency because we would shoot with each other. Every time we needed advice or like needed help on anything, we could lean on each other. That was super important. Reach out to creatives.
You do that a lot.
Yeah.
You are much better at this than I am. That's for sure.
Yeah, I've met lots of people. Like every time I go to a new place, someone will message. Like you show up, you post a story. Like, hey, let's hang out, let's shoot. I'm pretty open to it. In Taiwan, I landed and then I woke up in the morning the first day, right? And then I had spoken to this guy on Instagram before, but we'd never met. And he was from New York. He was like, hey, you want to come on a road trip? I was like, oh, sure. So in half an hour waking up, I got a shower. I showered and then went downstairs and got in the car with two strangers and spent the whole day with them. But
crazy.
That was very fun. But
never know where life leads like that, right?
Some people need to be careful. Like I think there are some weirdos out there. But generally, I think people who are into photography, they're pretty nice. You have things in common straight away. So it's huge to meet up with creatives.
Okay.
I think that's a big part of my success.
Bank account, consistency and experience, then meet up with people. Last two.
You need to love it because I think figure out if you truly love it or not because things will get hard. You'll be broke. You have doubts in your mind. And the only way to stick through it is to like really be sure that you want to. Yeah. I think this is like seems kind of generic and lame a response, but it is super important because you see people crash and burn and like the first sign of hardship, they're just like, I'm out. I'm going to go do something else. It
is a very grueling career as a content creator, isn't it?
We're reliant on engagement, which is, I am more, right? We're kind of bound to it. And that's, I guess, engagement and relevancy. You can fade from relevancy pretty quickly these days. And like if you're getting paid to post, and it's such a dumb thing if you think about it, but if you're getting paid to post and your post bombs and then you get paid to post another post and then it bombs, it's like, if it keeps going in that direction, you might not get any more work. It's very taxing on the mental health, but I think you have to kind of remove yourself from that and create content that you like. I think in the end, if you like it, your audience should vibe with it as well.
Or at least you'll build an audience who likes the things that you like.
Yeah. I think your passion needs to be somewhat not visible but sensed in your content. Don't like fall into that hole. I call it like insta push, where it's like your one post does well and then you just become that person because it does well and you're
We
chasing
see
engagement.
this a lot. We were literally talking about this yesterday
Yeah.
with people I
Well, you do
would
it's-
rather not mention, but like it's you do, yeah, exactly.
you do trends, and I think like right now trends are more like prominent, right?
People become famous for a trend rather than being famous for the craft that they supposedly are practicing.
Yeah, then they lose like long-term focus, I guess. I did this like album cover thing. It's like you just fake out. It was a way for me to showcase my photography. So you just have like the music player app, and then you put the album cover, but it's your photo.
Yeah.
That kind of blew up, and I ran with that, and I grew quite a lot from that. But then there has to be an end to that eventually, right?
Right.
But if you should run with trends if it's working for you for a little bit, you know?
Well, I was going to ask you, what do you think about that? But obviously now you're suggesting that people run with trends. What is the consequences of running with trends too long? Because I mean, there's a term for it now, right? Trend jacking is literally moving from one trend to the next in a never-ending trend.
Don't be
chase.
defined by the trend like over the long term. But I mean, if it's working, do you know what I mean? Like you should take advantage of it and never. I see people like they have one post that does well and like they just like that's it, you know. But you can milk it for as long as you can. Like don't be that guy where it's like there was no way I was gonna be the album cover guy forever. Like it was gonna end at some point, so it's fine. But it was in my head, it was a way to showcase my photography. And I think like you need to find vehicles to do that.
What do you think about, so obviously we operate in a photography context. What do you think about people who are supposed photographers who jump on trends and blow up because they are doing specific styles of a trend?
Name names.
I don't want to name names.
Yeah,
I don't want to name styles because it's you know there's actually quite a lot of them.
That's what it is these days. It's just
But what is the kind of consequence to that, right? Like downstream for
yeah.
people who do that.
I think like depending on what the trend is, right? Like I don't think it works all the time for brands. Brands have like they want to sell products or they have goals they want to achieve, right? And it's like, how is this trend going to help a brand? So then you might find it hard to like if the brand approaches you, hey, I want to work with you. And it's like, I'm going to do that trend. Sometimes it fits, but oftentimes it doesn't. It's like, what do you do then? So you post something that's really different to the trend that you normally milk, right? And then it doesn't do well. And then the brand's like, what?
Yeah.
It's from 1 million views to like 1,000. So it's like,
It also becomes really difficult from a client perspective culturally, because clients nowadays will look at a video or a reel or whatever and be like, oh, this reel got 100,000 plays or, 1 million plays or whatever the case may be. And that's because it's trend jacked onto something that's hot and current in that time. And then they'll go out and do a campaign and be like, oh, we want you to get 1 million views on your reel. And
they
that's
won't
the
ever say that
expectation.
explicitly.
But that's the expectation, right? And I've seen this happen so many times where clients, agencies, people who hold up campaigns are expecting the next viral hit from your thing, but you can never guarantee virality.
The issue with that is agencies and brands move so slow that by the time they get everything approved and like we want to see your storyboard, so you do that takes a week or whatever. It takes a week because they need to send it to the client and revisions and this and that. By the time you get it out, it's like trends don't even last that long.
No, they don't.
Yeah, I think like we've been doing this for so long that you don't jump on the trends, but you know how to make a viral thing, or you know the ingredients.
You know the ingredients.
You
to
can't
make a
ever
viral
guarantee
thing.
that it'll be viral, but you know the ingredients of. So that's part of your job essentially. If you're going to do sponsored social media stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't help it. Sometimes it is what it is. As long as like the client's happy with the quality of the work produced, that's fine. Like they they can take that piece of content and either run ads behind it or like use it for other things. But I think there's only so much you can control. It just needs to be high quality. You need to be happy with it. And yeah, if you can make everything go viral, that's a kind of
Yeah. I mean, that's the dream.
well, if you have momentum, you should milk it. Like yeah. So
Course. How do you think for yourself short form content nowadays has affected the
it's fried everyone's brains.
like what do you think about that? Because you know, you're like, both of us were obviously around at the very start of the whole social media thing.
Yep.
And it's just transformed into this short form
Monster.
And you know, there are good and bad things about it. But what's your take on short form content?
What's your take? Do you? I want to hear your.
I mean, I'm trying to be unbiased here.
No. Where do you see it going in the future? Do you see it surviving? Do you?
Okay. My stance on short form content is I heard an analogy akin to food and nutrition.
Go ahead. Yeah.
In which there are pieces of content that are nourishing and, you know, healthy for you and have a very high satisfaction to density ratio and will keep you full for a very, very long time. Things like, you know, very thoughtful carousels of images or long form video or something that's been very intentionally created on YouTube, whatever the case may be.
Yep.
And then there are things that are more akin to snacks.
Junk food, just say
junk food, sweets, things that have very low nutritional value, but you might crave because we all have monkey brains at the end of the day and we all like the sugar hit, right?
Yeah.
This to me is stuff like Reels and TikTok and Shorts.
Yeah.
It is stuff that is less than 7 seconds long and doesn't take very long to produce. It is trend jacking and picking up on the recent things. And not to say that like I don't do it, because I am as guilty as everyone else to have done it. But I know that it is the chocolate bar rather than the Wagyu steak that I'm eating, right?
I've noticed you and TK have been quite opposed. Even at the start, you were very reluctant to kind of jump on. I've been
You've been on from the start of TikTok. Yeah, I remember
before TikTok was a thing.
I remember there was this one thing though where we were out at I think it was a snow trip or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
And TikTok had just become a thing.
Yeah.
And it was like this brand new app nobody really heard about. And we were like in some hotel randomly, and you know, you'd been on TikTok for a while now, and you'd be like, you got to get on this, and I was like, yeah, I don't know, maybe whatever. And you were just trying to push this thing onto me
because I knew it was that powerful. Like I knew it was gonna take over the world, and it did. Like it truly did. Instagram picked up Reels, and then Shorts for YouTube. I think like every single like platform tried to integrate some kind of, because they saw how crazy it was. Which I think like getting content fed to you that you're not from someone you're following, that was a big shift that didn't happen before, right?
Yeah,
like everyone was like, you follow X amount of people and you just get their content, but that gets stale and predictable so fast. This is more like gambling, the randomness. No, but I think I realized this when I was just consuming it. I think I downloaded TikTok 2019, so before COVID, right? I downloaded it because I saw someone jumped on, and I downloaded it because I wanted to get my username, and it was already taken. There's
someone took itchban already.
Because it was previously Musically, so it'd been around for quite a number of years. But the first I knew that it was going to be a thing when I was on a road trip with James, TK. We were doing an American road trip, and we were in a hotel just chilling. And it was a small room, so there was like 3 beds next to each other, whatever, right? And I was scrolling and I was laughing my ass off at the memes or whatever. And they were like, what's this guy doing? Like, Reels wasn't around then. Like, you just go through photos, and I saw how powerful and addicting it could be. And that's where I was trying to push all of you onto it.
Yeah. So where do you think we are headed now?
I think it is it can be super addicting, and it is super addicting, damaging. But I don't see it as negatively as you guys. Yeah, I'm a bit more optimistic.
I think
sort of.
that has a lot to do with, I think me and TK and some other creators are probably going to resonate more with this, but like the way we see the things that we produce, I talk a lot about art versus content.
Yep.
And what that means to different people. And to me, making short form content and short form reels is content. It is not making art. Whereas like when I go out and take photos and I'm deliberate and I've put all this effort into crafting the perfect photo, that to me is more akin to art. And that's that's the feeling that I chase.
So you spend hours creating this masterpiece art photo. Is it photo? It's photo. Let's just say
it's also content,
yeah,
but
then
it's the feeling.
You put it out there and then no one sees it. Like people make art for it to be shared, for it to be seen, for people to resonate with your perspective on the world, right? You put it out, no one sees it. That kind of sucks. So shorts and reels and TikTok is like a way. I think the short form it's like a trailer for your work.
Yeah, but
so you should have an overall plan. So the short form is to bring people in. It's for discovery. It's for reach, right? And then that should bring them into your audience. And then you shouldn't just share shorts, reels, even though it's like super kind of hard to avoid.
Yeah, but I think for me and my perspective, you are talking about real short form content in that way as a delivery mechanism for.
It's part of a strategy
for something else. Yeah, which is fine. Like for me, in terms of optimizing for fulfillment, creating only short form videos.
You shouldn't only create short form videos. Let's be clear about that.
Yeah, isn't a very fulfilling thing. So I need to balance it out with making photographs and then thinking about the business of Instagram in the way of broadening out my entire portfolio of content. I suppose.
Like I won't put a reel in my portfolio. This is like something that I'm proud of.
Well, that's the
kind of
point.
A weird place that it sits.
That's the point. That's what I mean, right? Like, is your portfolio going to be like, as a photographer, is your portfolio going to be your reels, or is your portfolio going to be like an actual image? Like what are you proud in terms of the work that you produce to put out there as a portfolio piece?
Well, practicality, right? Like I don't know how many brands look at portfolios anymore, especially like depending on what kind of work you're trying to get right. But like social media, I don't even think they like go. They ask for media kits sometimes, but it's like they just look on your Instagram. So it's like whatever your most recent work is the most relevant, basically. So you have to keep putting out work that you're proud of. But when stories first came out on Instagram, I was just getting into video editing. So video takes a lot of work and commitment, right? So then having a short piece which is quick to edit, you can learn how to edit videos a lot quicker, and it's like you get to put it out quickly. The churn rate's like pretty high, right? So I feel like shorts and reels is easy to practice with. So you can use that as a vehicle to kind of learn and hone your craft with video. But eventually you want to have more significant pieces, right? So the strategy is to have shorts and reels as like a daily practice of like stuff that I'm not super kind of like proud of. I guess I am proud of it, but it's like I'm not focusing that much on it. It's just stuff to put out. So I'm constantly creating work to
just
keep
feeding
practice.
the beast.
Yeah. We've been doing this for years, like even photography wise.
Yeah.
Reels just takes a bit more work.
Yes.
You keep doing that you need to keep sharp. I think it's important because like during COVID, I didn't touch a camera at all. I was editing at home. And then finally the world opened up and I forgot how to use my camera pretty much. You forget like how to center the autofocus point and like, yeah. So I think you need to keep sharp, and Reels will help you without a big commitment to keep going, to keep putting stuff out. But then you also need to create more thoughtful kind of pieces, and all social media is like a little bite-sized thing. Like, I mean, a photo, what's the difference between a carousel and a reel? Like they're still in the same category in my head, right?
Fair enough.
There's no difference?
I mean, I'm more interested in hearing about like the way that you think about it, because
Like
I
the
think
carousel, you put it out, it's gone in 48 hours. Reel, it's gone in 48 hours. Like it's all junk food, really.
yeah, I think it's interesting that you put it like that, because it is so black and white, as you're saying. Like
Yeah.
it is, all social media in general is
Like one form of social media isn't better than the other. It's all
yeah. And
pretty
so
same.
it's always I always think about what is the work that I make that transcends social media. So if I want to be known for a specific style of photography, or if I want to be pushing my boundaries and creating portfolio pieces that exist on my website, or if I want to submit something to an art gallery, or if I want to submit something to an award, blah, 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 whatever the case may
Galleries are
be.
dead. They're like the traditional forms, like they're all kind of gone, bro. It's like,
Yeah. But, thinking about what is the pieces of content that makes me fulfilled as a person who makes intentional things, and for me, and I don't know if this is ever going to change, and I know other people feel about it differently to me, but my perspective is such that the short form content that I make doesn't fulfill me in the same way that making deliberate images does. And I mean, I know it's always going to be different to different people, but I think what you mentioned about using reels in short form as a kind of almost like a lead magnet, like a kind of top of the funnel device.
By nature, like shorts will reach people who aren't following you. So that's like
is actually very, very smart, I think, in terms of a marketing perspective.
Yep.
So for me as a creative business owner, putting out short form content, that is the perspective that I have on the short form content. So I think of it as like I'm making short form content for my business, and I take photos for myself.
Yeah, there's like portfolio stuff, but I think like money wise, what do you think about like for the last like 2 years, all I've ever like done for client work mostly is like we want reels, and it's like you have to make reels. What are you gonna do? So like I think even other creators who are making money, right? How do you justify making a 30-second reel, which you can make a good amount of money from, versus making a YouTube video, which would take you weeks and like of editing and shooting and stuff? I guess like if you were to monetize like a YouTube video, you would get a decent amount of money if you had traction and whatnot. But it's so much easier just to crank out a little reel, be done with it, and move on. That's the new age young generation that's coming up. Like,
yeah. See, that to me, my first initial reaction is a little bit yikes, because for my clients, I want the best of myself, and I don't feel like I can give them the best of myself with a short 10-second reel. Like if I'm doing a video project, just video in general, I would much, much rather deliver a full YouTube video that I've like thought about, the budget's there, the destination's there, the story's there, all that kind of stuff, rather than being like, how can I go to a destination and make 5 30-second reels like that? Because I feel like I can't give the best of myself.
sometimes it has to be shorter than 30 seconds.
Exactly.
'Cause
Sometimes
it's
it's 5. I like the reels that I make now today, 7 seconds.
But I
The
feel
end.
bad. Like if I hand over like a 5-second video to a client and they've paid me like thousands of dollars.
Absolutely.
But like then you need to
Absolutely.
consider reach. Like which one will do better? Which will be better? They do report on like KPI and stuff, so they need to have like high views or like.
But that's what I'm talking about. Like
how would you? I think you can, if they're making a good living from like creating shorts, and clients want shorts. You can't be like, hey, I'll make a YouTube video for you instead. It's like they want shorts, like for whatever purposes they're gonna repost it, or it's like everyone wants shorts.
yeah.
Let's say reels, shorts, not so
Short
popular.
form. Short form. Yeah. Everyone wants short form at the moment. And
For the last 2 years, that's all.
there's no escaping it.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no escaping. And that's why I've been like kind of leaning into it myself as well. But that's not to say that I feel good about doing it.
I don't think about it that deeply. You know what I mean? Like
That's fair.
it comes, it goes. in 2 days.
What's the next
Move
thing?
on.
Yeah, like
And-
Apple Vision Pro and like, you know,
Like
all the AR,
sometimes
VR stuff.
Sometimes there's like jobs you pitch for, right? It's like we want you to do this. How much is your rate for this? Sometimes I don't even want to mention YouTube. Do you know what I mean? I can make you. I don't really have a big channel, and like then you think about how much work it's going to take. It's like I'd rather just do reels, get it done with, and in the end they're happy that you get paid, and then you move on to the next thing. But yeah, I think especially for those who are starting, it would be they would make a lot more money a lot quicker through reels and through sponsored, that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, I think, well, keeping up to date with what's going on in the industry today is very important. And I definitely agree with you. If a new person coming into it is looking to accelerate their growth or go full time or whatever, short form at the moment is the way to go.
like imagine trying to grow a YouTube channel today versus a Reels Instagram account.
I mean, it's, yeah, the amount of effort to growth ratio is
It's
not,
pretty insanely different. Yeah.
yeah, it's not the same.
Yeah.
But also, I would encourage that if you go down that route as a new creator, to also think long term about what you want to do as a creative person.
Yeah.
Aside when the next thing happens, right?
Yeah.
When short form content has stabilized and matured, and you know
It's not going away for sure.
but it's 5 or 10 years later, and it forms into the next thing, right? What do you as a creator want to do then? I think that's really important for new creators to remember and just have on the horizon, because
Well, every Reels creator wants to transition to YouTube.
yeah,
They never do. But
Exactly.
It's like, yeah,
you hear all the big
logically-
TikTokers.
logically, like that's the path that they know they should take or think they should take. But I don't know. YouTube, I don't watch that much of it these days. Maybe because I'm on
It's
TikTok.
all I
the
watch.
time.
I don't even have TikTok installed on my phone. To be
Yeah, I
honest. Yeah, it's on purpose.
I don't know. I don't have such a negative view on it. I think it's part of your strategy. You shouldn't just do TikTok or short
Yeah.
form. And it's not fulfilling over the long term. It's not sustainable over the long term. It might be at this rate.
Who knows?
But yeah, like I wouldn't take
rule
such
it
a
out.
negative, like pessimistic view on it,
Mm.
because it's like you're gonna have to do it anyway. Like if you do any client work, that's 100% gonna be like reels involved, right? So
Yeah.
you might as well get good at it. There's no avoiding it for now. TikTok's getting a ban. That might be likely, but
Maybe.
even if that happens, like reels is here now.
Yeah.
And like you guys didn't want, especially TK, he's like he didn't want to do reels, and like I think because he saw TikTok and he saw there's some cringy ones where it's like
I mean, a lot of it's cringy. Let's be real.
no. So it's like right now there's a huge variety of TikTok content, right? So you might have seen some cringy stuff that you don't like, but no one's telling you to make that cringy thing. Do you know what I mean? You make something that you like. you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
it's like the old stories of when TikTok first came out, and
When
it
the
was just dancing, right? And everyone, and yeah, and you were like, I'm a photographer. I'm not going to post dancing videos. I'm going to post photos instead. And you're like, okay. And then it started to
eventually-
evolve and mature and change over
So
time.
you use that as a vehicle to try and show your photography.
Yeah.
So the trend that we jumped on, it was like it blew up my account like 160,000 overnight. This is at peak like TikTok where everyone's at home in lockdown. But it was like, hey, guess how many followers I have? You flash your photos on the screen. You like guess how many followers I have without looking at my account, and comment it and then come back and whatever. All right. And then I think that had a very strong kind of mechanics to it because it engages them. They'll comment your like how many they think. They'll go swipe to your profile, check, and then come back. And that was super high conversion for us, right? But that's just one example of how to use your photography, use shorts and reels and TikToks as a vehicle to show your photography.
Absolutely essential in today's world.
Yeah, like you don't have to dance. I didn't dance yet, but find like I might see TikTok as hey, if I use this for my photography, I could like flash a photo or like adapt it to who I am and what I do. You don't have to do the cringy things. Don't do the cringy. If you ever see me like pointing up, you know what I mean? Like they're like and it's like there's text above them.
I've done that before.
So
It's cringy, but
have a list of things you won't do. Like
yeah, it's funny that there's
or like the camera.
it's funny that there's different levels of cringe for different people, and everyone kind of has like their own do not do cringy lists.
Yeah.
And those are always different for every person, and I find that really, really interesting.
No one's forcing you to do that shit. Just do what you want to do. Yeah, like, but it's important that you do it.
Yeah.
Like, imagine you didn't start Reels. Like,
No, I mean, short form content now is, in my opinion, as much as I am, as much as it doesn't fulfill me as a artist, as a creator, it's like indispensable. Like, you cannot not do it. If you are any degree serious about the work that you make or your career in general, like you have to do it. There is no option, unfortunately.
it's not going away.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish I could pull up a clip of Pat be like, oh, I hate TikTok, because they definitely
I had to come around, but that's the thing. You
so this
got to
is
change with the time.
This is a lesson for, we've been doing this for a long time. It's a lesson for adaptability, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You hate it, find a way to do it so you don't hate it as much.
On adaptability, there are other aspects of creative business and creative entrepreneurship that I've been trying to push onto you guys. That
What?
In making digital products and not trading your time for money and using a good newsletter, email lists, and everything.
Those are all on the list of things to do.
Yeah, learning marketing, learning ads, learning learning SEO, learning all of these other like different important fundamental pillars of online business nowadays.
Yep.
That I think are really interesting, maybe for another topic another time. But it's just that I think the takeaway is that there are always going to be things in the creator sphere that are going to change, and mediums will always change, formats will always change, trends will always change, and much to what you said, being on top of that and being adaptable to that is extremely important.
Yeah, we love photography, so it's like, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life, right? Same with you, I'm assuming. Yeah.
Probably, yeah. In some way, shape, or form, yeah.
You might not be like influencing anymore, or like posting on Instagram or whatever, but you'd like to be doing this forever. And like, we've seen lots of changes and we've kept up with it because we love photography.
Yeah.
I think that's important. Like, people, they'll drop out. They would have dropped out a long time. We've seen lots of people drop out, like, through different phases, but people go through, like, they have different stages of their life. They get kids, they have kids.
They get kids. I mean, sometimes they get kids too.
Yeah, adopt a kid. But they have kids, and like the stage of their life changes. But I think I'll be doing this forever.
Yeah, nice. Now, just to wrap things up, I mean, you've already kind of touched upon this already, but something that I want to keep on every episode is, what does success mean to you in general as a creator?
Yeah, I mentioned it before. Like, there's a certain level of money. Like, I don't want to be broke and struggling, but I only value it up to a certain point where it allows me to kind of do what I want, live my life, and get paid for it. So vlogs is the way I want to. That's probably the clearest way to like get paid to live your life, essentially. Yeah. But even that's like not long term. I think generally just to maintain this lifestyle.
Yeah. Nice.
It's been good. It's been 10 years and it's like doing well.
And hopefully 10 years more. So thank you so much for coming on the show, Benjamin. Where can people find you?
Instagram at itchban, across all platforms. So YouTube, some vlogs coming out.
Nice. All right, if you enjoyed that episode, then tap over here for another one that I think that you really might enjoy. Oh, and if you want to support the channel, remember to like and subscribe and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. See you in the next one.